Okay, so the first question, why do you think the majority of people at the referendum voted for Brexit? Solid examples, please, not in hindsight ones. So, let's start with Faye. Faye, yeah. Oh, sorry, where's the...
Thank you. As I said before, I don't like to assume why anybody voted for Leave, so I can only talk about why I voted for Brexit. I left the UK when I was 24 years old because I was looking for something different and better for my family, and I didn't think it was the best place to raise my son. I voted for Brexit because I believe that there's a lot more in the world than just Europe. And I think that we limit ourselves by narrowly looking at Europe. My career has been about working around the world, and actually I think that we need to believe in our country and we need to look outwards, and we also need to believe in what we are capable of, and that was why I voted to leave, because I think that there's a lot more that needs to be done that can't just be done within Europe. We talk about climate change and how Europe's going to lead on it, but climate change will only happen if the whole world gets involved. We've talked about the fact that climate change doesn't know where boundaries are, absolutely, and if you ask climate change where the EU starts and finishes, I don't think it was going to be able to answer.
I think it was well, I agree with Faye, actually. We don't really know. We don't really know exactly why every individual voted, but I think it was a time when there was real stagnation in the economy. I think you'd seen real incomes falling, and I think for a lot of people, they were looking in their communities and they were seeing a lack of jobs and their communities changing in a way that hadn't really ever been explained to them, and it was a protest vote, and I think a lot of people were really angry, and we've got to listen to that, and we've got to listen to what people were concerned about, and I completely respect their decision and I respect what they've said, but it's up to us to make a better job of explaining the benefits of Europe, because it really had never been done. And when you see people standing in front of community centres and leisure centres and halls and things that have been funded by European money saying Europe doesn't give anything to us, you know, that is a failure in our ability to communicate some of the great things that we've got from Europe.
Okay.
Well, like Jim, I think many people voted in 2016 out of anger and frustration, and like I've already said, I think people wanted Westminster to sit up and listen to things that were going wrong in their communities. But these are things that are not the fault of the European Union, and it is up to our political leaders, and by this I mean all the MPs in Westminster, particularly Labour MPs, to say to their constituents that they are the ones that are going to suffer if Brexit goes ahead. It is the many, not the few, that are going to suffer if Brexit goes ahead. It is the few people, the wealthy elite, who are going to do well out of Brexit. And the Brexit leaders who've already shifted their money abroad, they're going to be fine. But I've seen a statistic. $99,159 jobs have already been lost since the Brexit referendum, and it's only going to get worse. Businesses in this area, the aerospace industry, the financial services, they're all going to be hit. People that you know are going to lose their jobs because of Brexit. And just one last thing, it was a very small majority, and you cannot and should not and must not ignore 16.1 million people who voted to stay in the European Union.
And if it had gone the other way, would the Remain side have said, oh, we can't ignore all those who voted for Brexit? No, they wouldn't. Of course they wouldn't. But the question was, why did people vote to leave? We voted to control our own laws, to control our own borders, to control our own trade deals, to be governed by our own democratically elected government. That's what we voted for, what we're going to get. I think it's really dangerous for any of us to say what other people voted for, because people voted for Brexit for a whole range of different reasons. I heard this week about 2 consultants who voted because they thought there would be £350 million for the health service. That promise was reneged on the following morning. I've met sheep farmers who voted for Brexit, who will certainly go out of business if they face tariffs of 40% on their lamb, most of which is exported into the EU. When I hear people saying what we're going to get out of Brexit, including Anne, including a lot of people who make a lot of noise saying this, it's a whole series of abstract nouns. Now, I'm not terribly impressed by that. I want a clear, practical plan about how this is going to make life better, not just for people that voted for Brexit, but for everybody in this country, and particularly for some of the poorer people in this country, who I know their lives will be made worse if we go ahead and leave the European Union. Now, I think the biggest reason people voted for Brexit was because the 2 main parties, in fact the 3 main parties in this country, have done a sort of deal with the corporations who are running the global economy. And the deal said, you can have as much plastic crap as you like, but you will not have dignity in work. And I think that was a bad deal. And I think we need to rethink the way globalisation works. And part of what I do in the European Parliament is taming globalisation so that it works for everybody. We do that through tax avoidance, we do that through trade policy. The Competition Commissioner does that to make sure that there's fair competition between small businesses and between the largest corporations. Only the European Union is capable of restraining corporate power and getting a better deal for all of us in work. We need to share the wealth better of the global economy, but I don't believe Brexit will achieve that. I believe we need to make Europe work to achieve that. And we also need a Green New Deal, which is one plank of the Greens' pan-European proposal for this election, a Green New Deal where we shift our economy away from the dirty industries and create the good quality, highly skilled jobs of the future.
Molly, could I stop you there? Thank you.
I think there are 1 or 2 things that have to be said about the referendum 3 years ago. There are big questions about the legality of the referendum 3 years ago that still have not been cleared up. The Electoral Commission has reported on multiple and huge breaches of the law by the Leave campaign, including Aaron Banks's, I know some people don't want to hear this, but I'm afraid that these are the facts, including the £8 million donation by Aaron Banks, the largest donation in the history of British politics, which the National Crime Agency is currently looking at. I think the National Crime Agency should get a move on, and it should report so that we don't have as much illegality on the part of the Leave campaign next time as last time. I think also, calling a spade, a whole lot of untruths were told by the Leave campaign last time. The £350 million a week for the NHS, not true. Do you remember the easiest trade deals in history that were going to be signed a minute after Brexit? None of them are ready yet. We were told by Boris Johnson we'd be staying in the customs union and the single market, then we were leaving them the day after. The fact is, people were not straight and honest last time. Next time we expect better, and I am convinced that on the facts, in particular the facts of Theresa May's deal, next time the result will be very different.
Thank you. Neville.
I think the referendum was really a call for change because basically we're just full of self-serving career politicians in the EU as MEPs and in Westminster. And looking around here, wheeling out Lord Adonis and Widdecombe, etc., it hasn't changed. And basically, as far as I can see it, we're going to get stitched up again, whether it's Leave or Remain. This lot are going to stitch up. Thank you.